It started with a revolutionary idea: shipping packages overnight. 50 years later, you might say FedEx delivers.
In a world where speed determines success, one company rewrote the rules of logistics entirely. The business model didn't exist. Investors laughed at the concept, and even a Yale professor dismissed it with a mediocre grade. But what seemed impossible in the early 1970s became the blueprint for modern shipping. This is the story of how a bold strategy transformed an industry and turned FedEx into a global logistics superpower. 1971 was a turbulent year in American commerce. The economy faced oil shocks, inflation, and uncertainty. Yet a 27-year-old former Marine captain named Frederick Smith saw an opportunity others missed completely. His vision was radically different from existing transportation methods. While competitors relied on slow ground transport and commercial passenger planes to move packages, Smith imagined something revolutionary. He proposed an integrated air-ground system built specifically for overnight delivery, centered around a single hub where packages from across the nation would converge, get sorted, and redistribute to their final destinations. This hub-and-spoke concept was the cornerstone of his Yale economics paper written years earlier. The professor gave it a modest grade, calling it impractical. But Smith had witnessed military logistics firsthand during 2 combat tours in Vietnam. He served as a platoon leader and forward air controller, earning a Silver Star and Bronze Star. Those battlefield experiences taught him how centralized coordination could move critical supplies faster than any point-to-point method ever could. He understood that efficiency wasn't about taking the shortest route for each individual package. It was about building a system that maximized speed and reliability across millions of deliveries simultaneously. When Smith founded Federal Express in 1971 with $4 million from his inheritance, skeptics lined up. He needed massive capital to buy aircraft, build infrastructure, and launch operations on an unprecedented scale. Smith raised $90 in venture funding, the largest startup investment assembled at that time. On the first night of operations in April 1973, 14 Dassault Falcon jets carried just 186 packages to 25 cities. The numbers looked tiny, but the concept was enormous. The hub-and-spoke system worked brilliantly in theory, but proved brutally expensive in practice. Instead of flying packages directly from origin to destination, every shipment routed through the Memphis hub. Planes arrived in tight windows around midnight, packages got sorted in hours, then aircraft departed before dawn to guarantee morning delivery. This centralized sorting eliminated thousands of redundant routes that competitors used. While it meant some packages traveled extra miles through Memphis, the operational efficiency was staggering. Centralization reduced fuel costs, streamlined staffing, and made overnight delivery predictable and scalable. Most importantly, it created capacity that could expand rapidly as demand grew, but expansion required survival first. FedEx hemorrhaged money from day one. The company lost nearly $30 million in its first 2 years. Rising fuel costs from the oil crisis crushed margins. Payroll obligations mounted while revenue stayed minimal. By 1975, the company's bank account held just $5,000, barely enough to cover 1 day of fuel. Facing bankruptcy, Smith made a decision that became legendary. He flew to Las Vegas with the remaining cash and turned $5,000 into $27,000 at the Blackjack tables. It bought the company 1 more week. When investors learned of this gamble, they didn't see recklessness. They saw a founder who had already bet his inheritance, his house, and everything he owned. 2 weeks later, they injected $11 million to keep FedEx alive. The gamble worked not because of luck, but because the underlying strategy proved itself. In 1976, just 3 years after launch, FedEx posted its first profit. 2 years later, airline deregulation changed everything. The federal government no longer controlled routes and pricing. FedEx could buy larger planes, expand routes, and scale the hub system aggressively. By 1983, annual revenue hit $1 billion. The company that nearly collapsed was now reshaping global commerce. Smith understood early that logistics wasn't just about moving boxes. It was about information. In 1978, he made a statement that defined the industry's future. The information about the package is just as important as the package itself. FedEx invested heavily in technology that competitors ignored. The company developed barcode systems specifically for package tracking, launching Cosmos in the late 70s. This system allowed internal tracking at every touchpoint. Couriers used handheld scanners, primitive by today's standards but revolutionary then, to record each package movement. By 1979, customers could access this data themselves. Real-time tracking became a differentiator that built customer trust and loyalty. In 1994, FedEx launched its website with online tracking. It was among the first companies worldwide to offer this capability. Customers could type a tracking number and watch their package move through the network. This transparency wasn't just convenient. It eliminated anxious phone calls, reduced customer service costs, and reinforced FedEx's reputation for precision. Competitors scrambled to catch up, but FedEx had established the standard. The data flowing through the system also enabled continuous improvement. Smith analyzed bottlenecks, optimized routes, and refined operations based on real metrics, not guesswork. Technology extended beyond tracking. FedEx automated sorting facilities with conveyor systems spanning miles. At the Memphis Superhub, packages moved at extraordinary speeds through 42 miles of automated belts. The facility could process over 1.5 million parcels nightly with near-perfect accuracy. This infrastructure became impossible for competitors to replicate. The hub required massive capital investment, strategic location advantages, and decades of operational refinement. Memphis wasn't chosen randomly. Its central location, favorable weather, and existing airport infrastructure made it ideal. As FedEx expanded globally, additional regional hubs followed the same model. By the 2000s, 15 global hubs formed a synchronized network capable of absorbing disruptions and rerouting packages instantly. While competitors focused solely on speed, Smith built a culture around reliability. Employees weren't just moving packages, they were fulfilling promises. Smith learned from the Marines that loyalty is earned in the trenches. When FedEx faced financial collapse in the mid-70s, pilots used personal credit cards to buy fuel. Workers went without pay temporarily. The culture wasn't top-down. It was built on mutual commitment between the company and its people. Smith instituted programs to put employees through college and rewarded cost-saving ideas from frontline workers. This investment paid dividends. Employee engagement translated directly into customer satisfaction. Smith also understood incentives better than most executives. Early on, Memphis sorting crews took excessive time processing packages because they were paid hourly. The longer they worked, the more they earned. Smith switched to shift-based pay. Same wages, but workers could leave once sorting finished. Suddenly, the sort ran like clockwork. This principle extended across operations. Aligning incentives with outcomes created efficiency without micromanagement. Another strategic decision came through acquisitions. In 1989, FedEx acquired Tiger International, a major air freight company. The acquisition doubled FedEx's global reach overnight. But it created a loyalty crisis. Tiger pilots had seniority that FedEx pilots lacked. Smith faced a choice. He chose to honor Tiger's seniority over his own team. FedEx pilots called it treachery. The family culture fractured. Financially, the move succeeded, but the trust damage took years to repair. Smith later acknowledged the mistake, recognizing that short-term gains sometimes cost long-term culture. Expansion continued aggressively through the 90s and 2000s. FedEx launched FedEx Ground to compete in surface shipping. It acquired Kinko's in 2004, rebranding it as FedEx Office to capture printing and document services. International routes expanded to over 220 countries by the early 2000s. The company that started with 14 jets now operated a fleet of 700 aircraft, one of the largest cargo airlines globally. Daily package volume reached 15 million, moving through a network worth over $87 billion in annual revenue. Smith remained CEO for 5 decades, stepping down in 2002 at age 77. His tenure saw FedEx survive recessions, fierce competition from UPS and DHL, the rise of Amazon's logistics network, and the seismic shift toward e-commerce. Through it all, the hub-and-spoke strategy endured. Critics pointed to inefficiencies. Packages sometimes flew backward geographically to route through hubs, but predictability mattered more than pure optimization. In logistics, consistency beats occasional perfection. When Southwest Airlines' point-to-point model collapsed in 2202, canceling 16,000 flights in 10 days, FedEx's centralized system absorbed similar weather disruptions without systemic failure. Smith's legacy extends beyond FedEx. The hub-and-spoke model influenced industries from telecommunications to global politics. Airlines adopted the structure. Freight rail followed suit. Even strategic alliances between nations adopted the hub-and-spoke framework. The concept proved universally applicable wherever coordination and scale mattered. Smith demonstrated that innovation isn't always about inventing new products. Sometimes it's about reimagining systems entirely. He took existing technologies, planes, trucks, and barcodes, and arranged them in ways nobody had considered. The genius was in the architecture, not the components. FedEx today faces different challenges. E-commerce demands same-day delivery. Environmental concerns require carbon-neutral fleets. Automation and artificial intelligence are reshaping warehouse operations, yet the core strategy Smith established remains foundational. The company still routes packages through centralized hubs. It still prioritizes information as much as physical movement. It still invests in technology and employee engagement. Smith's framework adapted to changing markets precisely because it was built on principles rather than tactics. Centralization enables scalability. Data drives decisions. Culture sustains performance. The story of FedEx proves that audacious visions require equally bold execution. Smith didn't wait for perfect conditions or universal support. He launched with limited capital during an economic downturn and survived near bankruptcy through sheer determination. He built infrastructure before demand existed, betting that the market would catch up. He prioritized long-term system design over short-term profits. Every decision reinforced the original thesis that a centralized, technology-driven, employee-centric logistics network could deliver speed and reliability at unprecedented scale. 50 years later, that thesis remains validated. FedEx transformed from a startup mocked by professors into a logistics superpower that moves the global economy. The strategy that seemed impractical became the standard, and the company that almost failed became indispensable to modern commerce.